If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
We're introducing Claire Wickins again today. Now, if you know Claire, you would have gone through her previous podcasts, or podcasts, I should say. You know, she's done a couple of Listener's Choice 293. Claire's a Grand Prix competitor, trainer and coach, and she's got a successful show career. She also breeds warm bloods. She uses cross-training to keep dressage horses effortlessly beautiful. And also she's a competitor. She's amongst people, she's training, she's coaching. So she's got a really unique way of introducing the 10 ways to keep horses, buying and selling horses, keeping both parties happy. Claire, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah. Claire, I like this subject that you want to talk about. We've talked about buying horses before, not buying and selling horses. So you're coming in from a unique point of view, keeping both parties happy. Very important in any commercial transaction if you want to have repeat business. And it may not even be repeat business from the same person, but if you can keep both parties happy and you've got a good reputation, then whoever buys a horse from you is going to also recommend that someone else to buy a horse from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the fundament for me. If I place the right horse in the right home, that'll sell, because I'm continuing breeding each year, that'll sell the next horse. And what I want eventually is I don't have to advertise them. There's a queue of people at the front door saying, what have you got?
And ultimately, if you're selling to the right person, the horse is going to go to the right home. The horse is going to be happy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
All right, when we talk about it, the buyer, if they're thinking about, thinking these are not just horses that get picked up at the doggers and get sold as rescue horses and that. These are horses that are bred as international competitors. So sometimes people might buy one horse in their life that's going to be at that level and they'd be their dream horse. So what are we looking for there when we talk to the buyer?
Well, when I put up an ad, I always put my phone number and I try to have a conversation. Lots of people in this digital age just want to text you or messenger you, and I really try and get people to talk because I've been surrounded by a lot of real estate people, and it resonates with me that they said what people say they want isn't always what they end up with or what they truly want. So when I have a conversation, I've often numerous horses here, and some will be actively on the market and others might not be for sale, but if the right buyer comes along, I may decide to sell them. So I always ask them, what are you looking for? And by having a conversation, you get to see what features they would like and what is really the most important thing. Like a lot of people say to me, I can't have a mare. I can't have a mare. When I was 14, I had a mare. It was a disaster. Now, I love mares.
Yep.
I tend to breed. I don't know why. I tend to breed fillies. The people who use my stallions tend to breed colts.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, funny. Yep.
Same stallions here. The fillies just pop up, right? Yep. So I have a lot of mares for sale. But my mares are brought up like no nonsense. And I think that really affects the way they are able to be handled. That if you don't allow them, to be alpha mare like while you're riding, that they can be alpha mare in the paddock, but they also need to be able to accept discipline and not be nasty about it. So I always ask people, what is it that you're after? And then, and I have a pen and paper and I write down a list. Because I might have 4 horses or 6 horses, and then I can instantly rule out, okay, they don't want a 3-year-old, or they don't have the budget for a FEI horse, or, they really don't want a mare. Yeah.
Yep.
So we often go through height, colour, sex. I ask pretty early on about budget. Yep. Because there's no point in us having an hour conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
If they want a world-class horse for $10,000, I can't help them. Yeah. And then age, for some people it doesn't matter, and some people want a horse that's been around the block.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? They might be in their 60s and they just want something, they might want a more of a schoolmaster type horse. And other people, they want the adventure of a young horse. some people, it is of utmost importance that the horse has been out. Some people just don't want to do that. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to do the first competition experience.
Yep.
And I get that. That's a bit intimidating to some people. And then some people want a flying change. They might have a roadblock at a flying change or at Piaffe or something. So they want proof that the horse has done that.
Yes.
And then I also talk to them about scope and potential, because some people want this international horse, but we don't all have the ability to ride that.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, because, and I'm not being demeaning to anybody. I've had some recent injuries and I have some super moving horses and I'm struggling a bit with them at the moment.
Yep.
And I won't eventually, but physically right now I am struggling with them. So for some other people, like especially parents, they'll say 100% she's got to be reliable. I want it that can have a month off and my kid can get on, and I know I can go to the shops and come home and she'll still be alive.
Yes.
Yeah, so some people want, if I go in and do my best test, nobody can catch up with me. And other people want, no, I want the safest horse you've got on the property.
Yep.
So we go through and I write a list. And then I push them a little bit and say, how stuck are you on that? Because I've got something that's got more potential with that, but will you have somebody to support you and help you? You know, that's a strong personality, that horse. It's got huge movement. That's fine if you have regular coaching or somebody who can get on for you occasionally.
Yeah. People will come with what they want, but it may not be what they need, and you're really going and drilling down in that and thinking about what they need. And I know you said that you talk about price early, but I suppose the buyers have got to be sensible to what they can afford, what's essential. There's got to be some flexibility there, hasn't there?
Oh, there has. And I'm sometimes flexible in price, sometimes absolutely not.
Yep.
But sometimes there's a flexibility. But I also find that there's some buyers who think they can knock the price down 60%. And then I find that quite rude, because they wouldn't go to David Jones or out to dinner and do the same.
Yep.
Yes, the market is a buyer's market because of drought and floods and fires and virus, and yes, I get that. But at an elite luxury level, the horses, that cost a lot.
Absolutely.
You know, to produce.
Yep.
But my vet bill alone this year for breeding only was $40,000.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's to get the pregnancies. That isn't my end game.
Yeah.
That does need to be recouped at some stage.
Yes. Yeah. Thinking about it from the buyer's point of view, you know, if I was going to buy a horse and I was having a conversation with you about the horse that I'd like to buy, what sort of things would you want to tell me about the horse? Like, the first thing is, why is this horse for sale? What would you tell me? What would I have in that conversation that, you know, you would find out those things from me, but what would I find out from you?
I would say, like, I'm not a dealer. I'm not taking other people's horses. I'm a breeder. Yep. And that's the majority at this stage. And in the horse industry, it's ever changing. But at this stage, that's the majority of my income is breeding, and selling horses that I've self-produced. So, I'm not taking other people's problem horses. I'm trying to breed a pretty specific product, and if I don't feel we're going in the right direction, I'll stop using that mare or that stallion, or I'll change the way I feed them or train them or whatever, so that I get the right product at the end. It's in my interest to produce the best possible horse, give the rider the most pleasure and the most longevity out of that relationship. I don't want a horse to necessarily, like, people's circumstances can change, but I don't really want a horse to be sold to somebody for 6 months. I'd love it to be their lifetime horse. Yeah. Like you said at the beginning. You know, that's my goal, and I would love to follow their journey. And if it's successful, then that sells the others. I breed for rideability and trainability, number one.
Yep.
And I was very lucky, worldwide, PB being my foundation stallion. It's well known. We got the Paralympic gold medal at London.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's proven in the horses, and all the youngsters are exactly the same. And now I'm adding a bit more athletic scope, but I'm very cautious that I maintain that trainability and rideability. And he also had this amazing ability. He had a liquidity to his movement, a softness to his movement. And I think worldwide, in some cases, that's been lost,
mm-hmm.
where some people are looking for extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like a little bit more scope, a little bit more athletic, a bit more natural impulsion and strong and suspension to the horses that
yes.
With each generation, but not at the cost of losing the effortlessness, and but I just want it to have an ease.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
I'm trying to breed a horse that does it naturally and effortlessly and elegantly and without tension, without
mm-hmm.
tightness, because that will also keep the horse sound and also keep the horse, if the horse does it easily, it's happy doing it.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would, each generation I'm trying to get a little bit more movement, a bit more scope, but maintaining that beautiful fluidity that worldwide has imprinted on all the horses.
Okay. Now, thinking again from a buyer's point of view, photo, video, but I think you've gone a bit further than that, haven't you? You've got Facebook and Instagram, and you've got photos of your foals.
Yes.
You can follow them. So if I'm looking at a particular horse, I can see what it's done, even if it's a 3-year-old. I know that training
you
it's
can go
had.
back to the day I can say it was born on this day,
mm-hmm.
and you can go back on my timeline and you can see every couple of weeks there'll be a photo of that horse.
Yep.
And you can see when it went to clinics and, when we went out and cross-country jumped it or rode it in the paddock or all different things. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's important. I think it's nice to have a photo of your foal, even if you didn't get it until it was older. It's lovely to have photos like baby photos. Yeah. And just to have that. So that itself is, even though it's not actually changing the value of the horse, in the person's mind who's buying the horse, it is changing the value because they've got that much more of a history already with the horse that they can get straight away.
Yeah, I can't manufacture. I can't say this happened and that happened. It's there in black and white.
Okay, now tell me about trials. Everyone wants a trial. Every buyer wants a trial, and every seller doesn't want to give a trial. How do you go on that? How do people really get the opportunity to explore the horse, ride the horse? How do you work that?
I think in most parts, apart from a real riding school level horse, most people nowadays don't do trials, mainly from the legality of it. It's just really hard work. I've had people suggest that I send horses that may be for sale for quite a lot of money, like $50,000 to Melbourne for a month. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, no, sorry, I can't. But I offer that people, I've said to those people, well, your daughter can move in for 2 weeks.
Yes, with you.
Can feed it and
ride every day.
Ride it
Yep.
I'm fine if it's a substantial amount of money you're spending, and it's a big risk. It's like going into any relationship. You're just not going to have one ride and jump in.
No.
I've also had another buyer. She said, Claire, I've bought 6 horses and they've not worked out. I want to be really cautious about this. So we came to agreement. I said, I won't sell the horse to anybody else in the meantime. If somebody wants to come and look, I will let you know, but I won't sell it to you. You've got like 6 weeks to make a decision.
Okay.
And she came and had a lesson 2 or 3 times a week, as often as she could get here, and she paid for the lesson.
Yes.
And then I gave her a lesson. It wasn't like I was selling the horse. It wasn't all flowers and roses and rainbows and, this is all fantastic. I was like, give it a kick, sort it out. Here's the boundaries. Don't let that happen. And she had a super opportunity. And then we both knew, like she knew from the second ride she was done, that it was good, you know, but it didn't matter. We kept going. But then I don't feel like I'm wasting my time. And she said, I don't feel guilty if I don't then buy the horse.
Yeah.
I haven't wasted your time. I haven't, you know, been a tire kicker and wasted your time.
Yeah.
And she could at any stage have changed her mind. Some people don't want to do that, but in that instance, that worked for both parties. That was, you know, a really successful sale.
That's right, and that's what you're looking for, isn't it? You know, that you're wanting to keep both parties happy and you ultimately want what's best for the horse. So if the person has, you know, 20 lessons with you over the period of whatever time and they realise it's not the horse for them, you don't want to sell them that horse if it's not the right horse for them because you don't want it to be out and on the market.
No.
Yeah. What about people putting a deposit down, having conditions? Tell us a little bit about that.
A couple of years ago, I had a youngster, 3-year-old, that was just packed, and I'd put, as I was about to put on the market, I put more and more videos of her coming up, and then I put a video up on a Saturday, and she needed front shoes, and her front shoes had come off for some reason, and on the day I put the for sale ad up, I got like 6 buyers.
Oh, wow.
Come today.
No.
I was like, I'm not ready. I didn't expect that response.
Yes.
And I had a professional rider with a client looking for the exact horse, and they're like, we are coming today. And I said, you can't come today. I need the farrier. I need, she was fine, but she's just on the bitumen. She was a little footsore, and I didn't want to show a horse like that.
No.
And so we put her off till Monday, but they paid a deposit.
Just to show they're serious,
Yeah, and other people were like, we want the horse, we'll come right now. And I said, no, I've put these people off to Monday. And they were buying on behalf of a client who was overseas on holidays. But that horse was advertised on Saturday, and they took a video of the horse on Monday, and by Thursday the horse was vet checked, paid for and picked up. Yep. And that was the most efficient, absolute, and it went to a 12-year-old teenager, a 3-year-old. But the rideability of that horse was astonishing. It had huge scope and potential, but it also was as quiet and easy as can be. And I had a queue of people wanting that horse. But I say to people, especially if you want to negotiate on price, if the horse is for sale for, say, $20,000 and you offer the seller $15,000 and you go ahead and do a vet check, and somebody comes the next day and says, well, I'll give you full price $20,000, it's a business. It's a business. Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, if you put a deposit down, I've agreed. I've solidly agreed. But that's the best way to do business. Yep. That makes both parties safe. And a contract is a good idea for both parties too. I never had a contract, and now to me it's imperative.
Pretty sensible. Yeah. I'm just thinking, going back to the 12-year-old getting a 3-year-old horse, she obviously had support systems in place.
Yeah, they had.
Yeah, I think you yourself as a seller are going to do the right thing and make sure that a 12-year-old's going to have those support systems.
Yeah, no, the horse is going into professional training for 6 months.
Yep.
And then the girl was going to ride the horse each week under supervision, and then the horse went over to her, and it's been highly successful.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, now, just thinking, we sort of talked about me as the buyer coming in and asking all these questions as a buyer, but you as a seller, if someone rang you up or someone asked you, met you, you might have been at a dinner party, who knows, but they ring and they say, well, such and such breeds, why am I going to buy your horses? Why are your horses the ones to buy? What would you say? You're talking to me, I'm a potential buyer. What would you say about your horses?
I would say they are the love of my life. Yep. I'm not probably the world's best business person. They're my children. I breed not, yes, to keep my head above water and keep the bank from a door, but I don't breed to make a ton of money. I breed because I love it. I also breeding to produce myself a top international horse that I might not want to go out and seek and fly. I have a reputation to uphold. Yep. I'm not 21, which not to put any young rider down, but I have huge experience. And right now, it's taken me a long time to realise what is the best horse for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talked about the trainability, and rideability.
Yeah, rideability and trainability.
Yep.
Look at Valegro, all the videos of him as a youngster. It wasn't this world-beating horse that didn't touch the ground. It allowed the riders and trainers to implement their ways on it.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? You have to have a horse that is happy to work, is happy to please you, that, the work is like going out to play. So I've had hugely talented horses in the past, which are mentally challenging, and soul destroying because they're a bit arrogant and they don't want to please you. I found that I'm great with mares and I'm quite good with stallions, which a lot of people won't touch. I like the entires. I find them more rewarding and more giving than geldings. Do you know what I mean? So I've learned what works for me, and I'm trying to sell a product which I know is successful. I've got one mare right now that would plod round for somebody on the buckle, Doreen, would jump and hack and dressage, and if a professional rider said, right, in 5 months I want it to go FEI, she would too.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? She would be as quiet and do it like a little daisy cutter, and then the next moment she'd be a little superstar. But she needs a kick to get that. But as soon as you turn on the turbo button, it's there.
Okay. Performance competition. Would you talk about your performance and competition career, because that would be something to do with your reputation? So if I was buying a horse from maybe well-bred, lovely horses, but the people training them don't have much of a competition career, I know as a buyer I would rather buy a horse from someone who's already been there, done that, rather than someone who, I just train horses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've learned in the last 5-10 years that that's imperative. I didn't think it was, and it is. People really, really want that.
Yep.
I've had a couple of injuries, so I haven't been able to take some of the horses out. And then when I am coming back into riding, I'm not 100%, so I don't want to be, taking them out. And so I've said these horses haven't been out for 2 years because I haven't been out for 2 years. People don't care. They want them to have done that. Yep. And I now appreciate that a lot more. I had a horse for sale, I sold last year, and she was 7 or 8, and I could not sell her. I could not sell her because she hadn't been out. She had been at practice days, and she'd been clinics, and there was photos and video footage, but she'd been to a hack show even. She'd been to 2 hack shows. But people wanted her to have gone to a dressage competition, and I could not sell her because of that. She again sold to a teenager, and she went to Melbourne and she cleaned up at every competition. And in 6 weeks from them buying, they were offered double of what they were paid.
Okay.
Right, and they turned it down because they said, this is our lifetime horse. We love it, to the end of the earth. But all that horse needed was a couple miles under its belt in the competition arena. And I had failed to do it because I just wasn't in a position to do it. So now... I've worked out that that's imperative, that they've gone out a few times and have at least a small record. They just want peace of mind to know what's going to go out and not buck them off. And
Yep. How close do they look at the pedigree?
Some people a lot, and some people, the good horse is a good horse. Some people won't touch certain lines. They know a stallion and won't touch it, or they're just not worried. Or they won't touch a sea lion or something.
Okay.
I won't have a mare. They'll be like, I had a contact, 15 years ago. I never want anything of that sea lion. And it depends, I suppose, if they want to breed or not. And I'm quite lucky in the horses I've got now. Worldwide, obviously, came down from the Weltmeyer and Brentano line, so they're very good, maybe nowadays a bit more old-fashioned, but Holland's Ben Fanacha is Szechuan, it's a really modern. So I've got these strong, solid foundation lines in the stud horses, and then I've also got I've added First and Ball and Foundation and Dancia they've got really, I've got new, fresh blood as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, the individual ability, are people buying, do I just want to go to a stud because my friend or a couple of friends have had horses from that stud, or is the individual ability of a horse, how important is that? What's buying from a well-known stud?
I think it's really important. I've had a lot of inquiries, and they were for horses I didn't actually have. Everybody, they wanted an elementary, medium, advanced horse, and I just didn't have that horse at the time from a horse I sold last year. Mm-hmm. But that's great that eventually, hopefully, they'll be queuing at the door or lining up at the front gate saying, this is that if the buyers can actually tell you what you want,
yes,
then as breeders and sellers, we can produce that. And with each generation, I'm breeding more scope and more athleticism, but I also have to be mindful that I only sell to the elite, and that's not the bulk of your buyers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I've got stallions, but maybe and I've got fabulous mares, but maybe I need some more, riding down to earth riding mares for the amateur rider to enjoy rather than to necessarily go out and win on an international level.
Okay. Now, reliability, how important is that?
For me, it's the be-all and end-all. There's no point having a genius.
Yes, it's not reliable.
Not touchable. Not, could do a pirouette for 10 if it wanted to.
Yes, okay. Okay. Now, thinking about horses, and we're talking about Australia, and Australia is pretty isolated from the rest of the world. But more recently, it's been easier to import some horses.
Yeah.
So why would I buy from a local, an Australian stud, if I can buy it cheaper from overseas? You hear about people buying, it only costs this amount of money to get it from overseas. What would you say to that? Why buy local when I can buy cheaper from overseas?
Because even if you don't know the seller personally, there'll be somebody with such a small community, there will be 6 degrees of separation, somebody who will know that. For me, there'll be 300 people who can recommend me. Mm-hmm. You can go back over I'm not a dealer, I'm a breeder. You can go back over the Facebook, over the Instagram and see the history of the horse and where I've been and who I've had lessons with, and look at the EA results and see the competition history. But I have a reputation because it's a small pond if I'm selling to Australia, and I need to keep that reputation.
Okay.
If people are selling internationally, there's a dime a dozen. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I had a super horse I sold last year, and it was bought by a buyer to go to a professional rider in training to a Grand Prix. And I spoke to them about selling this horse in Europe. And he said, Claire, you can't. I was suggesting I took my horse to Europe to be sold because I knew it was world class. Yep. And they're like, we can't trust them as a buyer. You can't trust them to sell your horse.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And then also the buyer has the cost. They've got to fly there. Now, if, like the buyer said before, he wanted to have 6 weeks of lessons, that's an expensive exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've got the cost and the risk of injury to fly the horse home and in quarantine.
Of course.
There's so many horses that have been injured in quarantine. And they cost people, they're like, I can get a horse for 70,000 euros that would cost me 160 here. But when you bring the horse in, you've got to pay GST on it.
Yep.
You have to pay its freight, and you have to pay its quarantine. And people like impulse buys. You can't have it for Christmas. You're going to have to wait 4 months. Then the horse isn't going to be fit. It's not competition ready, or and you are more likely buying in Australia to be able to check that person's history.
Yes.
And we say buy fruit and vegetable and from Australia. Well, we can breed now international quality horses with frozen semen. We can breed the same horses. Why not buy locally when they can be the same quality.
I'm just thinking about the vet check too, because if you buy a horse locally, you get a local vet check that's got the reputation, where if you buy one from overseas, you don't know the reputation of the vet even, do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories of them substituting X-rays. If you're not,
Oh, really?
I recommend that if somebody from interstate comes to try the horse, I have a conversation that I want you there at the vet check.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, and they might say, but I want to go home. I was like, well, let's do the vet check this afternoon, or come back next week and let's do the vet check.
Yep.
Because I just think it's imperative. Because something came up on the X-ray that gets talked about, written down, is different to how the vet talks to you face to face.
Yes, and then you can ask the vet, and you can ask, what about this? What about that?
You can have a conversation again about that. Yeah.
Yep.
And legality, what they write, they have to cross all the T's and tick all the I's. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dot all the I's. Yep. So they have to be super careful, but they can say, is this ideal? No. Is this a deal breaker? No. You know what I mean? Yes, we've got to take this into account, but But what they might write, you're going to be like, no, I'm not going near that horse. Yes. But they've got a heartbeat. They're not all going to be perfect. Yep. They can't be perfect.
No.
So I always recommend the buyer is there.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? You as a seller, what is the number one thing for you? What is the most important thing for you as the seller?
The horse doesn't care if it gets a gold medal or 50 ribbons, that the person loves and adores them. Mm-hmm. And, it's an important investment, not as in a financial investment, but in their time and effort and love and, emotional investment to them. That I more often am not in tears when I'm showing a horse. Yep. If the buyer gets on and it's a click, I'll have tears well up in my eyes. Okay. And, I'll get quite emotional there. Yep. And if they turn around and give me a hug and say, I will love it, then it's sold. Yep. I'm okay. Yep. And if they think, oh, God, you're a complete lunatic, if they can't feel that as well, if they don't appreciate that, then I think,
I think you're going to be teary now, Claire, even just thinking about selling a horse. So,
I find it hard. I'd love to catch them all.
What do? Your after-sales service. Do you hear about your horses, see them, What support do you give after you've sold a horse?
I love to hear about them. This morning I got a video from one that's actually show jumping. It's crazy breed dressage horses that don't always end up dressage horses. And he's a special case. Yeah. And I sold him and then he was resold again. And he has gone to somebody who just adores all his quirks. He wasn't the horse for everybody. Yep. But she loves he's got a full-on personality. Like he jumps and then he has a buck. And he just thinks it's a hoot. And she sent me a video going, he's the best. I love him in the world, And I will go to the competitions and I'll support them. I often know the horses inside and out, even if they haven't been backed or they've only just been broken in. I've had that line. I've had that mare line. Yes. I've had that stallion line. I'll go, okay, that horse, that line, they all tend to be a bit light in the hand and get behind the bit. You need a bit more leg. You need to make sure you get the nose in front of the vertical. I'm happy to give my time. If you're a happy customer and it's a successful combination, all the better. Yeah. So I'm not thinking time is money. I'm thinking I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear feedback of and I'd love to support your journey all the way through.
Claire, I almost want to come down there and have a look and see what horses you've got for sale now. I think that, I just think that's, it almost seems like that's the perfect world for a horse to be born into a knowledgeable home that may not keep them for life, but then get sold on to the right person, with the intention of having them for life. And a horse that'll go out and compete and do well, but with someone who understands them and and you being able to give up that backup after sales service, or just happy to support and help people once they've been sold. You know, it's not just the handover of the money and the horse is yours, but, you know, just the fact that you're there to keep talking to people and help them work through any little quirks that the horses may have. Yeah, I think, wow, what a great life for a horse, for one of your horses to be born. Yeah. All right, look, I'm sure now everyone else wants to come and buy the horses from you, and you know, I mean, they're not going to be a horse that you can just buy and sell and that you can, you know, save up a bit of pocket money for. They really are probably a once-in-a-lifetime horse, you know, the type of horse that you've looked for and been dreaming about for a long time. So I think if you're in that position to buy a horse or talk to Claire about it, Claire, what's the best way to contact you?
Probably via my Facebook page, Claire Wickins, or Tennyson Stud. I also have a business page, Tennyson Stud. And my phone number's there. Send me a message and call, because having a chat, it's the best.
Okay.
So, I mean, like you may say, I want a black gelding less than 16 hands or whatever, but I might say, well, I've got 3 brown mares that are 16.3, and they may end up being a better fit. So let's have a conversation, and I'll do my best to help you. And if I don't have anything, I won't sell you. I won't sell you the wrong one. It's not in my interest. It's not in your interest. It doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, I like that, keeping both parties happy. Well, it's all 3 parties really, isn't it? You know, you start to include the horse in that. Yeah. Claire, thanks again for your time. And, you know, I think I said when we first started, we've talked a bit before about buying horses, but I love that everyone's come in with a different aspect to it, you know, and you've certainly come into a different aspect. And if you did miss those contact details for Claire, just go to horsechats.com, search for Claire or search for Wickins, and you'll find her details at the bottom of each page. Claire, thank you for your time, and look forward to catching up with you again.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Glenys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.